presentation. Tell me a story. Why narratives stick when facts slip.
How far away from this do I need to I'm short, so I expected this to be like way up here. Let's try to. Okay. All right. I do believe in luck. I studied it briefly in college as part of another class, so it wasn't like a full semester thing. But that's not what I'm here to talk about. Just want you to know it's real, but you need to believe in it like a fairy in order for it to work. And that's a good accidental segue into what I'm about to talk about, which is stories and specifically fables. In my example fables, I don't have any fairies, but they are a common component of fables. So fables, they've been a part of our society since before the written word was created. They were very important for shared values, lessons, facts, and not just a way to entertain one another, but that as well. A story is far more easier to remember than just facts than being lectured at. And sorry. I'm really nervous. This is, my first public speaking engagement in 20 years. The espresso latte, right before project, not the play. I'm trying not to talk too fast or too slow, as I was working on this, I've been kind of nervous the whole time and thinking about how, kind of going into an anxiety spiral. I'm like, oh my gosh, there's going to be a bunch of people here, and I'm going to have to entertain all these people with my talk, and how am I going to satisfy everyone? That's going to be the real challenge there. Everybody has different interests and tastes, and I need to write a talk that's going to satisfy everyone. But then I remember this story, and I'm going to actually read this off of the paper here. So sorry for that, but can't remember the whole thing at once. This was actually written in the 4th century BCE by Aesop. So some of you may have heard this one. It's not one of his most popular stories, but to me it was very important because it helped me with this moment, and rather than like writing and revising and writing and revising again, I just was able to kind of finish my talk. So here we go. This one is called The Miller, His Son, and the Donkey. One day, a long time ago, an old miller and his son were on their way to market with a donkey which they hoped to sell. They drove him. Good, thank you for being on top of that. Again, I wasn't just part of my talk, I am nervous, and I won't remember everything. They drove him slowly, for they thought they would have a better chance to sell him if they kept him in good condition. As they walked along the highway, some travelers loudly laughed at them. "What foolishness," cried one, "to walk when they might as well ride. The most stupid of the three is not the one you would expect it to be." The miller did not like to be laughed at, so he told his son to climb up and ride. They had gone a little farther along the road when three merchants passed by. "Oh, what have we here?" they cried. "Respect old age, young man. Get down and let the old man ride." The miller was not tired. Though the miller was not tired, he made the boy get down and climbed up himself to ride, just to please the merchants. At the next turnstile, they overtook some women carrying market baskets loaded with vegetables and other things to sell. "Look at the old fool," exclaimed one of them, "perched on the donkey when that poor boy has to walk." The miller felt a bit vexed, but to be agreeable, he told the boy to climb up behind him. They had no sooner started out again than a loud shout went up from another company of people on the road. "What a crime," cried one, "to load up a poor dumb beast like that. They look more able to carry the poor creature than he to carry them." "They must be on their way to sell the poor thing's hide," said another. The miller and his son quickly scrambled down, and a short time later the marketplace was thrown into an uproar as the two came along carrying the donkey slung from a pole. A great crowd of people ran out to get a closer look at the strange sight. The donkey did not dislike being carried, but so many people came up to point at him and laugh and shout that he began to kick and brag. And then, just as they were crossing a bridge, the ropes that held him gave way, and down he tumbled into the river. The poor miller now set out sadly for home. By trying to please everybody, he had pleased nobody, and lost his donkey besides. The end. The moral of this story is, if you try to please everybody, you will please none. So that really helped me get this thing going. I was struggling with a lot of revisions and stuff. So you can see that that's going to be more memorable, I think, than if I just threw facts at you. There's important things you can take away from these stories. They don't have to just be stories, entertaining. But another important thing about these stories, especially ones like this one, is that they were meant to be fluid and adaptable, especially when shared orally. They transformed subtly and sometimes pretty dramatically over time as they passed through the generations and different locations from which they were told. The message would be typically the same, but they'd be molded to fit their target audience. So that's something that I want to demonstrate in this next story. An important thing that I don't know if a lot of you know, those of you with kids might, but kids are obsessed with giant rodents called capybaras. I don't know where that came from. They're rodents. But at least my kids, it's my older son Lucas, they love these things. This story is going to sound very familiar, but I definitely altered it to my target audience. So it's called The Boy Who Cried, Capybara Trouble. Once upon a time, in a lush green valley teeming with exotic wildlife, lived a young boy named Rowan. Rowan was a shepherd, not of sheep, but of a large, gentle herd of capybaras. These enormous, docile rodents spent their days munching on grasses and wallowing in the cool river. Rowan, however, was easily bored. One sunny afternoon, a mischievous idea sparked in his mind. He ran towards the village where he lived, which was named Footy Pajamas. How it got that name is another story entirely. Shouting at the top of his lungs, "Poachers! Poachers! They're after the capybaras!" The villagers, knowing the value of the capybaras, dropped their tasks and rushed to the fields armed with sticks and worried expressions. They found Rowan giggling amongst his peacefully grazing herd. "There are no poachers," he confessed. "I just wanted to see what you would do." The villagers, though annoyed, returned to their homes. A few days later, while the capybaras were napping in the river, Rowan spotted a troop of noisy monkeys swinging through the trees, eyeing the ripe fruit trees near the capybara grazing grounds. Another idea struck him. "Monkeys! Fruit-stealing monkeys! They're raiding the orchard, scaring the capybaras," he cried, running back to the village. Again, the villagers, remembering the previous false alarm, but fearing for their harvest, hurried to the fields. They found Rowan enjoying a stolen piece of fruit, while the monkeys had long since moved on. "It was just a few monkeys," he admitted, "and they only took a little. I just wanted to see you all again." The villagers sighed, their patience wearing thin. Then came a truly scorching day. The air shimmered, and the capybaras huddled together, seeking shade. Suddenly, from the dense undergrowth, slithered a group of vibrant, menacing fire salamanders, their fiery patterns glowing ominously. These creatures were known for their toxic skin and aggressive nature, posing a real threat to the gentle capybaras. Terrified, Rowan truly cried out for help. "Salamanders! Dangerous fire salamanders! They're attacking the capybaras!" he screamed, his voice hoarse with genuine fear. But the villagers, having been tricked twice before, merely shook their heads. "Not again," Rowan once said. "We won't fall for your games this time," another mumbled. "He's just bored." Rowan watched in horror as the fire salamanders advanced, the capybaras beginning to stir uneasily. No one came. The boy had learned a harsh lesson when he truly needed help. His pleas were ignored because he had cried wolf, or rather, poachers, monkeys, and salamanders too many times. So obviously that's just the boy who cried wolf, my kids aren't interested in sheep and wolves. So in order to target my audience, I changed things around a little bit. Capybara, is it capybara or capybara? I made a point to say it both ways because I truly don't know. I won't dwell on that, but it's going to bother me. So if anybody has strong opinions, I'm open to hearing them. As I've already demonstrated in the last two stories, you can share them exactly as they have been given to you. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I mean, they've survived many of these thousands of years because they're just that good. Or you can change them up freely. It's, after thousands of years, they've been in the public domain for a little while. You can do with them what you will. These stories have a lot of common elements. In anything from, I'm a big fan of the rule of threes, so any story I create, it's typically going to have, that rule of threes. There's a bunch of rules that are suddenly not coming to me because I'm nervous. Some of them that I wrote down are you have anthropomorphized characters, but they don't need to be. These aren't rules like you have to follow them exactly. They're more guidelines. Everybody's familiar with the clever fox or the wise owl or the brave lion. They will all have a moral lesson or some point that you're trying to get across. They'll typically use very direct language, so you don't need flowery prose. So I think that makes it a lot easier as well. Your story should really only have one main conflict. You're not writing a novel here. You're just trying to kind of get a point across with clear cause and effect. It is also helpful, but again, totally not necessary, to use timeless places, such as my favorite would be a forest, but not a specific forest that someone would recognize, because that makes the story more broadly appealing. And I think we should, one of the points of this, I think I skipped over this in the beginning, but it sort of seems like our society is unraveling, and maybe it's because we don't tell these stories often enough. So for the next story, I thought about the issues that seem most important for modern times. Then I gathered up the common and familiar tropes that make the story more relatable to a wide audience. Everyone knows about the clever fox, the clever and tricky fox, as I said, that used deception to get his way. Aesop wrote about this fox a whole lot. I specifically used AI in this next one, just to kind of prove that, we have modern tools out there that can help us out. So There's no excuse to not doing this and sharing these kind of stories, which were an important building block of our society, I say once again to emphasize the point. So here's a story I created called The Fox Who Crowned Himself King. In a lush forest where many creatures lived together, a wily fox stood atop a mossy rock and declared, "The forest is lost! The birds sing lies, the squirrels steal from your stores, and the owls hoard wisdom for themselves. You need me to fix it." Some animals were wary, but the fox was charming and spoke with certainty. "Trust only me," he said. "I will make the forest great again." Thank you for the laughter. The fox built fences to divide the meadows, so rabbits couldn't talk to the deer, and the frogs couldn't hop near the bees. "Too much mixing causes confusion," he said. He made the crows his messengers, rewarding them for repeating his words. He taught the young ones to chant his praises instead of asking questions. At first, things seemed orderly, but the river stopped flowing cleanly because the beavers weren't allowed to cooperate with the otters. The trees dropped their leaves too early because the birds no longer warned of droughts. Whispers of fear replaced the songs of trust. One day, a small hedgehog, quiet and curious, stood up and asked, "Why must we only listen to the fox?" The fox laughed, "Because I speak the truth." But the hedgehog had been listening, watching, and remembering. She spoke of times when animals helped each other, shared wisdom, and solved problems together. Slowly, others remembered too. The forest didn't change overnight, but the creatures began talking again, across fences, across species, across fears. The crows flew freely, the owls taught the young, and the river flowed as the beavers and otters rebuilt the dam together. As for the fox, he wandered alone, still wily, but no longer crowned. The end. The moral of that is beware the voice that divides to rule. Strength grows where many that listen, speak, and build together. It shouldn't be too hard to figure out where my inspiration for this one came from. I hope it becomes popular. Please, feel free to retell this one. There's no attribution necessary. I'm hereby officially releasing it in the public domain, and I hope it changes the world. Maybe that's a little too ambitious, but I do really believe in these stories to the extent that now it's time for the group activity. We're going to create our own story together, and then I'm going to tell it. It's probably not going to be great because there's no editing. I'm just going to sort of reform it. But I think it should be. It should still be pretty good. So to start with, what is our problem or conflict? So this is a question out to the audience, so I just want to hear a few things, and I'll pick the one I like the best. Climate change. Climate change. I think that is a good one. We want an issue that a specific character is involved in. I think climate change is very important, but what I'm specifically looking for is some sort of character flaw type issue. For example, character A wants something and is willing to break a rule, deceive, rush, or act privately, not privately.
You could use short-sightedness relating to the climate change.
Short-sighted, I like that. That is excellent. Okay, so how does this character act on their desire, ignoring warning, mocking another, or believing they know best?
I like to let my truck idle when it's hot outside so I can sit in the air conditioning.
Okay. All right. This is going to be tough. I think I can do it. And so, what are the consequences of that? Something backfires, collapses, or turns out differently. Okay. Okay, let's see. I'm feeling a little bit better now. And then what is the resolution? So we've got our main character, likes to sit in the truck and idle in the air conditioning, despite probably warnings, and then it starts a fire, and now we need a resolution. So these stories, harkening back to the boy who cried wolf, I heard plenty of retellings where the boy gets eaten in that story. So the stories don't have to have a happy ending. I'd rather not.
The barbers in the flame.
I was gonna say
It's important to know your audience, so now I know I have a very morbid audience here.
No, he said his house burns out, and I like that because that's the only way he said people ever learn when it affects them.
Okay, yeah. Okay, his house burns down. Yeah, he already could loses his job, or both. So, when I practice this at home, I ran into the same situation. I think the setting is kind of a given here, but probably going to be this person's driveway. But I want to put this out there anyway. If anybody has any ideas.
Maybe they live in like a dry, meadowy type area.
Okay. When we first started, my thought was Walmart parking lot. Okay, so now we need 2 to 3 characters with clear personality traits. They can be humans or they can be animals. We can, if you have an animal that you think would be, drive a pickup truck and you think, the beaver?
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of homework with something. Exactly.
Okay.
I think I'm trying to go with that.
Okay, I like that. And then I think we kind of need like a wise, character that warns, like, hey, don't sit in your truck and just idle, because.
The what?
The bear with the safari hat. I kind of like that. Go ahead, just shout it out.
I think that this story should last a very long time. I mean, climate change is not something that you're going to come to realize is real overnight just because something burned down. You're not going to connect that to climate change. So you either need to change the issue or say that, hey, to prevent your car from burning down, don't let it idle or whatever. Why did the house burn down? I don't even know.
It's an exercise. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna push forward, and I'm gonna make
the short-sightedness aspect of it.
Yeah, it's definitely. So I think we're gonna shift to the short-sightedness, and which I think our current climate solutions, they absolutely are short-sightedness. So rather than talk about climate change, we'll talk about the root of the problem, which is that short-sightedness. So, okay. And then we'll circle back and do the title because I put that on there so I don't forget to talk about it. But so this is going to be a little rough. The story that I wrote had gone through a fair amount of editing, but I'm coming up with this on the fly. So we had a beaver and a wise bear. So there was once in a forest a busy beaver who would, he liked to get to work on time, and sometimes, to beat traffic, he would get there early, and then he would sit there in his truck in the air conditioning to avoid the heat. And occasionally his boss, Boss Bear, would come out and say, "Busy Beaver, you shouldn't sit out here in your truck just idling in the heat, this could cause problems for you further on down the road. But, Busy Beaver wasn't given too much of a hard time for this. He was, after all, a busy beaver and was a good worker, if not maybe a little short-sighted. So he would continue to do this. And one day, he was sitting in his truck, and it was an especially scorching hot day, and the truck caught fire and erupted into flames, and Busy Beaver leapt out of his truck and jumped into the river to escape the flames and even more heat. And the truck, the fire from the truck spread and caught fire the lumber mill, and he lost his job and everything there. So, yes, I warned it would be a little rough, but we have a clear beginning, middle, and end. We've got characters, we've got a moral. Don't be short-sighted. And I think we spoke really well to that. With a little bit of time and editing, I think we have really something there that we could share with friends, family, children, whoever. So what should we call this story? This is an important component here, and we can't skip over it.
Beaver fails to stay cool.
I like that. How am I doing that? 26 minutes.
You're fine.
Okay, so now that you've heard me tell all these stories, I really think that you should all go out and start telling and creating your own stories. To get started, I recommend reading or listening to as many stories as you can. I find tremendous value in them, and I just enjoy them. Aesop's fables are pretty good. Again, they've been around for thousands of years. There has to be some reason that they've withstood this test of time. And then practice telling these stories to not just children, who are the obvious target audience, but, I think other adults can enjoy this as well. Think of the stories that resonate with you and try to remember those. And you can make up your own, like I did with The Boy Who Cried Wolf, or create something entirely unique, like The Fox Who Crowned Himself King, and I already forgot the name of our story we just wrote on the fly, which was fantastic, the best thing you've ever heard. So I've only talked about fables, but there's more than just those. There's also parables, allegories, satire. They all are designed to teach lessons. So those are other options for you. Maybe I'll come back and talk about those. Probably won't. But the most important thing I want to leave you with is if you need someone to listen to your story, come find me. I always enjoy a good story.
All right. Thank you. That was excellent to hear the relevance of stories and their impact. I happen to see, I don't know if anyone else noticed it, in the current issue of Scientific American, I was just reading it, and there was an article in there about a recent finding where they were looking at people's mental health, and they found out that people who told stories and saw their own life as a story were more likely to feel that they had meaning and purpose in their lives. So certainly a relevant finding to today's topic. Any other questions or thoughts? Yeah.
I didn't realize I had another thing on there. Yeah, go ahead.
So I've always been more interested in like nonfiction, politics and things like that. But I noticed early on in like high school and stuff like that, that we had much better, deeper conversations in English than we ever did in social science and things like that. And I'm wondering why you might think that fiction or narrative can speak to deeper truths than the reality that we live in and speak of.
I think we're hardwired to tell and receive, and more so receive stories. It's actually a big thing in business. You type something into Google and it really makes a difference what kind of ads you see. And I will tell you there are a lot of business tools like specifically targeted towards like VP and up, or management and up tools to help people tell stories. So, as a nonfiction person, I think that telling stories is, I don't even see these entirely as fiction. Yeah, obviously, there's a fictional dressing on top of them, but they are very much, the underlying core message is it's not fiction, it's real. Our last story, short-sightedness, our second line, working backwards, be careful who you listen to. The ultimate authority is not necessarily, the person that's right is going to be best for you and your community. Don't tell lies. Don't try to satisfy everyone. Though that's not fiction. That is reality. We just put a fictional dressing on top of it. I think to more directly answer your point, storytelling is we're just hardwired to remember stories over straight facts. And I'll tell you from personal experience, to tell a little story of my own, spent a lot of time on Facebook arguing with people about things, and they just do not care about facts. But if you share a story, then they're more apt to listen and find relevance and importance in what you say.
Yeah, it's definitely like a psychological hack.
Yeah, absolutely. It is, psychological hack. I like that one.
Yeah, running the net.
I was just going to say that it's probably not a good idea to mix fiction with history, because I think that in fiction, when you're talking about those deep conversations, a lot of times you're inferring what the person might have felt, or why did they do that? Why do you think? Where we don't really want to get, I don't think, into that in a history class. Like, these are the facts, this is what happened. It's up to you to decide how that person felt, and that's your personal, feeling about it. Because it could be that the horrible things that they're saying and doing are, and I'm just thinking about history as all bad, but you might think to yourself that they mean it, what they're saying, but they might not. They might just be trying to save their own ass because saying something different could mean death. We don't want to assume, though. And so I think that's why our history classes focus more on facts than the feelings of the people. I think. I don't know. Does that make sense?
I think that absolutely makes sense. I would say it depends on your target audience. If you're trying to package up something from history for children. The history itself is a narrative, and it depends on how close you want to get to that actual history. If you're trying to share something with kids, maybe all the characters are mice and cats or something like that, and you don't want to go too much into like the actual feelings at the time, or I think a lot of that often, it's ultimately an opinion because people weren't there, but from letters that were found or whatever. I can't speak too much to that one because I'm certainly not a historian. If it's not told to me in a narrative, I don't remember it.
I think maybe a big part of that is the very real threat of of changing or whitewashing history. We've got a lot of examples, I think, in the past where history has been kind of rewritten to support the dominant or more influential classes of society, and has done a lot of damage. And so I think that's part of the reason why it's really important to be careful when you're talking about a history thing. Whereas if you have it setting in a hypothetical forest with a fox or something like that, then you kind of avoid that whole minefield.
Absolutely, yeah.
I think another way to clarify this is that when you're writing a story, the author has perfect information about everything the characters are doing. Or they have the ability to say as much detail as they want. Whereas if you're talking about history, there's a lot that is just unknown. Because you can't look into the mind of every person on earth and write down what they're thinking. Whereas if it's a story, you can do whatever you want because you don't care whether it's true.
Yeah.
We probably have time for one more question or comment.
Definitely. I've seen you raise your hand.
One of the things that I like about stories is how they foster connection. When I'm reading a piece of fiction, a story or a novel, or when I'm listening to someone recount a story, I feel connected to that, and it seems deeper than a recitation of facts or something like that. But one of the things I worry about too is that with the rise of internet and social media culture and attention spans that are shrinking, how much tolerance do people have to actually hear stories, to make that connection with other people, especially for an extended period of time?
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. I think that's why I've become so enamored with the fable. I've always been a big fan of fairy tales and myths, and because I think they speak to the human mind. Not to go too deep into the weeds, but if you read a lot of fairy stories and then you compare them with modern UFO abductions, they're the same stories, guys. They're the exact same stories. But the trappings are different between them. So if you go back a handful, 100 years, it's fairies. But then from like the 1950s on, it's little gray aliens. But they're the same stories. And I recommend you look that up because and so I think these stories, and again, not to get too deep in the weeds because I'm trying to talk about fables, but those types of stories, I think that they speak a great deal to who we are as people, what our shared mindsets and ideologies, and values and mores and all that are. So I think I'm trying to circle back to your original point. I'm starting to get there, but I think the big thing is that you're absolutely right. We do have a shortened attention span. I think a simple fable is a good way for sure to get a point across in a more abstract way, but that is more memorable, fosters that greater connection, and that fact is still tucked in there, kind of packaged along with it, to make it safer for travel, so to speak. I think it's a really good point there.
All right.
I was going to mention that, but
Okay, just a real quick note. We threw this in the announcements just because this became a lot more relevant really recently. Because, as you probably saw, the incentives for EV and solar are now going to be ended. They will last for just a matter of weeks for the EVs and a matter of months for solar. So for those, I wanted to mention really quick a couple things about EVs and solar. First, looking at the EV, a lot of used EVs And a lot of them you can get for a lot cheaper price. Some of these have been on lease or other sources. People might have owned them privately. Some of the advantages. First of all, performance. EVs. How many people have driven an EV? All right, a few people. How many people own an EV? Okay, yeah, somebody. My wife, we had an EV in the family we got back in 2023. It's really, really nice. Boy, you hit on that accelerator and it goes. And it handles so much better. We recently went on a trip where we were going across Canada to see the eclipse. And we decided to take my gas car because we don't know how the charging is in Canada. And we're taking the gas car. My wife was like, you made an appointment, right? I'm like, what are you talking about? with the auto repair. I'm like, no. She's like, for the car. Don't you have that set up? I'm like, no. She says, there's obviously something, don't you know when you get in, there's obviously something wrong. It's so sluggish and loud. I said, it's a gas car. It's really, night and day. I saw recently the poll data. They polled a bunch of people who had EVs. 99% are never going back to gas. It's really, really a big performance boost. The other thing is the money. Can you imagine if you could live in a world where gasoline always, when you went by the gas station, always cost $1.20? That's what it costs to fuel an EV for a comparable amount of driving range. $1.20. Those savings really add up. Sure, it costs an extra $100 to register the EV, but that $100 is paid for in a matter of a couple of weeks. If you don't, EVs can be expensive, but people say, oh no, they depreciate so fast. Well, that's great. Get a used one. It's depreciated. It means you can get a real bargain on these used ones. And with the incentives, you can get up to $4,000 depending on the EV, and there is an income limit. So if you make a lot of money, you won't be able to get the incentive. That's okay. If you make a lot of money, you don't need the incentive. So a lot of advantages to EVs. Another one that's easy to miss. Power and power out. You can, depending on your EV, a lot of them have dedicated, it's called V2L, vehicle to load, where you just plug it into your house. Other ones, you might need to do something else. You might have an outlet in the car. I used an inverter that I hooked up to the battery. I just popped the hood and hooked the inverter in there. And I did a quick calculation. It'll power the fridge, lights, stuff like that for about 3 days. So most power outages don't last nearly that long. And if they do, then before you run out of charge, take the car over to a charger or someone's house or someplace like that, charge it up and bring back a bunch of electricity. Really nice to have the advantage. Or camping. Can you imagine how nice it is camping or tailgating to have practically unlimited power? You can plug in whatever you want. Be careful. One thing that some electronic things, especially your Wi-Fi router, you need to make sure you get a pure sine wave on the inverter. But a lot of other stuff, almost anything else, like with the motor, is just fine. So check on that. So those are some of the advantages. The thing you can do is, if you want to look at an EV, look in the used car market. We're the Motor City. We're all very familiar with getting cars. On your in the middle of the table there is a little slip of paper. I have a recent blog post that lists the car buying sites and these advantages. If you want to take a look at it, go for it. So you can take these pieces of paper with you as a reminder. Yep, Brett, go ahead. Yep, charging, super easy. The big criteria with that, you have to have a place to charge at home. You can use public chargers. Some people make that work. It's a lot trickier. But if you have a home, it's easy to set it up. I set it up. It cost me $450 to get the 240 outlet put in. And, sorry.
How much?
Yeah. And after that $450 for the outlet, I bought a portable charger for about $100, and that's it. I also got a $500 rebate from the power company. So charging at home, charging when it's cheap at night, works really well. If you own a home, consider looking at EVs in the next few weeks because the incentives expire for purchases after September. So go ahead, Brett. Thank you. Yep, must buy by September. So for home solar, this one's a little bit trickier, but the math works out really good. It's practically free. You get the home solar put in, it pays back enough to cover a lot of your electric bills, and solar panels last like 30 years. So I did the math for a net present value calculation, and it gives you about a 9% return on investment depending on the circumstances of your house and the system. You can't get that reliably even in the stock market. So really good. If you own a home, consider home solar. Look if you have a south-facing roof. The nice thing is you don't even have to do all this yourself. Once you look at it, there's a website, energysage.com, which is also on those slips. They will line up people to give you quotes, and then you look at the quotes, do a little background search on the company. Even though they vet them, it's good to vet them again. And everything is done for you. It's really nice. If, again, you have to have a house, and in this case you also have to have a south-facing roof. So they look really nice up there. I got mine just a few weeks ago. I love it. So don't have power from them yet because we have to go through a few more steps. But yeah, really looking forward to it. Power and power outage, you have to pay a little extra if you want a backup battery for power and power outage. So consider it. But for that, remember, for that one, you're going to have to pay a few extra $1,000. But people pay $8,000 to $10,000 for a house generator for the same thing that isn't used almost all the time. It makes a ton of noise and fumes, and you have to maintain it. And the battery's so much better. It just sits there, turns on automatically when the power goes out, and you have backup power. So with that, got it installed by December for those. So with that, we'll move forward with, yeah, go ahead. There we go.